Hi, this is Rich Formidoni with Korg USA. Today I'm in the studio with the KingKORG, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the various oscillator types you have available. Of course, it does the basics: sine wave, square wave, sawtooth, all that good stuff. But it also goes way beyond the basics and does some cool things you might not expect. This is the oscillators section of KingKORG. This is what we're going to be focused on today. So I've set up an initialized sound with some basic sculpting. It's really simple. It uses one oscillator. Now, the structure of KingKORG is such that you have two timbres, and each one of those timbres can have 3 different oscillators at once. This particular sound uses just one of the 2 timbres, and so far just one oscillator. Now, as I mentioned, we've got the basics really well covered. If you look on this display, you can see that the word analog is lit, and here I'm looking at a sawtooth wave. Really basic. Now I can go to pulse, or triangle, or sine. Now for each one of those waveforms, I have control that I can exert over it with this knob right here. So for example, with sawtooth, it modulates the waveform. With a pulse wave, it's a pulse width control. And once you get up to the noise options, something interesting happens. Let's go to pink noise. With the control, it functions as a low-pass filter. Now, when I move over here to the shift button, I actually have access to a second oscillator-specific control. So I'm going to press a key while holding down the shift button and turning the control knob, and it'll adjust the noise decay. So this is great for doing things like analog snare drums or even some gunshot sound effects. Now if I choose a different type of noise, like white noise for example, it becomes a built-in decimator without having to use the decimator that's in the effects section. So as we move on to the other oscillators, we see that we have things like dual sawtooth and dual square wave, dual triangle, so we have dual versions of the popular analog waveforms. In this case, the control knob will detune them. So you can go anywhere from a smooth chorus kind of detune to a very specific pitch that's great for soloing. Now if we move on from the dual waveforms, you've got unison, and that'll give you the same kind of detuning on the oscillator control. So that's an effect we hear in a lot of today's house music. Moving on, we also have sync waveform. So we have sync options for sawtooth, square, triangle, and sine wave. Then there's even ring modulation built into the oscillators. So you can get very, very creative there. Beyond the ring modulation, we also have cross-mod waveforms. So this harkens back to the days of the monopoly where we had analog cross-modulation going on the synthesizer. So here the control knob adjusts modulation depth, and then if you use shift and the control knob, it controls modulation pitch. So you can get some very unique sounds happening there. Beyond the cross-mod waveforms, you'll find VPM, or variable phase modulation. This is our digital synthesis, and the control knob does a lot here. So by itself, it'll control modulation depth. And with the shift button, it'll control modulator harmonics. So let's take this sound and sculpt it a little bit with the envelope controls on the right side, and we'll create an FM style bell sound that's very similar to something you might have heard in the 80s. Beyond the analog waveforms, there's also DWGS series waveforms, and these are from our DW8000 and other DW series synthesizers. So these are PCM sounds, and we have some presets for things like organs to show them off. After the DWGS sounds, you'll find that we also have some new PCM samples, including, among other things, this electric piano. We also have some beautifully sampled stereo strings. The last oscillator source is the microphone input on the back panel of KingKORG. Now, one thing you'll notice is that you can cycle through all 4 different types of oscillators: analog, DWGS, PCM, and microphone in, just by tapping on the type knob. Also, please remember that you can combine these different types of oscillators together, analog, PCM, or otherwise, within the structure of a single timbre. So, now you know a little bit about the oscillator section. Fortunately for you, that's just the beginning. There's so much to do on this synth. Now you get to explore the LFOs, the envelopes, the filters section, the effects. There's a lot to do here. So for more information, please check out our other videos, and of course go to korg.com/KingKORG for more information. Thanks for watching.